We haven't done
So,
this in a long time.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you how you want to do this, but I don't know how to do this anymore.
I was kind of hoping you would guide. Usually.
Anyways, y'all. So, welcome back to D&D. I don't know if I want to necessarily call it a podcast per se, but more like, because here's the thing, podcast for me, like, I don't know if that's just like the stereotype is for them to be super long, but like, I feel like these are more like sit downs, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't know what it is, but it's not a podcast to me.
Sometimes it can be, right?
I mean, when we have certain topics, yes.
I mean, but technically podcast is just having conversations, right? But this is more like of a like a catch up video, maybe.
Yeah.
Just because like it has been, I think the last time I posted something about anything was maybe a year ago, and I had said on Instagram, it was on Instagram, I remember, I said, it's been a while. Podcast coming soon.
It didn't. We got a lot of things thrown our way. Some were great, some were just things that we didn't expect, but thanks to God, everything turned out. And now we're kind of in the middle of a transition, but
we're still transitioning, but
one that we could kind of handle enough to kind of put this into the schedule, I would say.
So I would say like, since then, obviously Didi had her baby. That was the last episode you guys saw, maybe with her in it, she was pregnant. She was ready to pop. She popped already. And Lila's almost 2 years old. She's in the back. She's behind the couch. She's watching Bling Bling. It's like a Spanish little character that like she learned stuff with. Anyways, so the last time y'all saw us, right, obviously we were about to give birth, her, not me. And the baby's running around. She's super high energy. She's very high energy. She's super loving. And we love being parents, that's for sure. So that's what I wanted to ask since we got started, right? How's parenting been for you?
It's the most amazing thing ever, but I think it also tests your character. Like it shows you things that you need to work on.
Like what?
Like I used to think I was a very patient person because obviously I have nieces and nephews. I'm the youngest out of all of my siblings. And even cousin wise, I was like in the middle of the age group. So I was always trusted with them. So I was like, oh, being parent is going to be easy because like I've always been around kids and I know I have a lot of patience.
Yeah.
But actually being a parent, I'm like, maybe I don't have as much of patience that I thought I did.
I don't think, patience is definitely like a big factor in being a parent. I just, the thought of having a girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was like, okay, I'm about to have a girl. I don't want to be a bad dad in the sense of like where I'm too harsh on her or she just thinks of me as like somebody being too disciplined because again, I'm not used to, I've never had a baby, a girl at that one.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just like, okay, I thought I was going to be very like, loving and which I am, but in the sense of like, you know what I mean? Like you have to still be able to kind of like know where to draw a line when it comes to certain things. Even though she's young and she's still learning, she has to kind of like recognize that, right? Because if I just let her run rampant, because she's definitely with her character, she has that character where it's like, if you let her just do what she wants, she's going to do what she wants. She's super, super high energy. So,
well, she's a very loving kid. She loves to learn. Like she likes learning new things and being curious about life.
Yeah.
But she does have a strong character, which it comes from both of us. Because I think we both have pretty strong characters in our own ways. And obviously she's going to take after that.
I think because of the way she was born, right? Like when she was born, we showed her a lot of love, right?
Yeah.
We were super, super, super warm with her. We did everything with her. We were like super loving and so on and so forth. And I think over time, as like time continued, she saw that and like obviously she's developing her own characteristics, but she's seeing that in us and she sees that, excuse me, wow, she's seeing that and she sees our character and the way that we are. And I think she got comfortable and realized, okay, so maybe this is the way that I may have to be or the way that I need to be, but she obviously does it in her own way.
Yeah.
And so she got comfortable with how we are because she sees how we are with people. She sees how we are with each other. And I think that she just adopted that. So she's like that.
Yeah.
Because she's a kid, sometimes she doesn't realize how overbearing she is to other kids, which is hilarious to me. Because she's super kind, but like, I've seen it at daycare. It's like, no matter what size, it's like sometimes I got to stop her from her impulsiveness because she's impulsive.
Yes, she is.
She's super impulsive. And it's funny, you know, as a kid, you tell them she gets to that point where you're like telling her no, and she's like, she'll wait for you to kind of turn and then do it.
Yeah.
Do exactly what you said she wouldn't do. She did that yesterday, literally, and we had to address it. And I dislike addressing it because, again, all I want to do is just like shower her with love, right?
Yeah.
But if I continue to do that, or we continue to do that, we create, you know, a spoiled child, and that's the last thing that we want is a child that's spoiled.
I will say I'm very proud of us in the sense of how we tell her to be with others. Like yesterday when my best friend was here, she brought her an Easter basket and she said, "Thank you, Titi." Like she said,
she's
like gracias. She talks in Spanish. We talked to her in Spanish.
Yeah.
And then she gave her a hug. And then we went over to your brother's house. And then we've never met his friend before. That was the first time that we met. But she said hi to him. And then at the end of the night, she gave him a hug. And it wasn't like an awkward hug or anything. She was like, okay, like this is how we are.
Yeah.
Or when she sees people at church, she'll like say hello. And like, you know, she does her little baby talk.
She's
very open and loving to everybody.
She has manners. So it's like, she'll say gracias, which is like, you know, thank you. She'll wave at you whenever we tell her like hi or bye, right? She knows, like, obviously when I drop her off, she knows that, you know, dad needs a hug, a kiss, another hug, another kiss, another hug, another kiss. She knows, and she, you know, I can tell she gets to where she's like, and then she'll do the last one to kind of like go run into her teachers and stuff like that. So that part's funny. But I will say that I do thank God for allowing us to be parents, just because it's caused us to really step back and kind of, you know, not reprioritize, maybe just reflect and kind of just organize things while other things in life are being thrown at us. And and it's good, you know. I think that living a life right as a Christian is, you know, it's not easy, but it's also not hard. It's hard if you make it hard, right? What you have to do is you realize that you have to deny this. A lot of this is you have to deny. Flesh is the number one enemy, right? And if you don't deny that and you give into your impulses and you give into your anger, or you give into not being patient and so on and so forth, then it kind of ruins and destroys things. Now, although being parents in the beginning, the beginning portion was not rough, but it was like an adjustment, right? Because we're trying to figure out, right? She's trying to figure out, like, am I being a good nurturing mom? And I'm figuring out, am I being a good protective dad? Am I being a good provider, and so on and so forth? And it's like, just, we're juggling these emotions. And since we're so focused on juggling these emotions, we almost lose our sight and reality of the goal itself, the initiative, right? Of like being a family under God, and so on and so forth. So I feel like once we kind of realize that, because at some point we just kind of noticed it, and we're like, oh, wait, hold up, wait. Okay, let's take a step back. Let's reflect on this really quick, and let's just realize what we need to do as a game plan. What do we need to make sure that we do to make sure that we are satisfying the desire to be a family and to be one that serves under God, and so on and so forth. So I think that was like a big part. So I wanted to ask,
at the beginning, it was more about us figuring out how to be married and parents. And now it's more about, how do we discipline her, but still show her love and kindness while still being like good discipline, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think that during the process of us being parents, I remember you brought it up. You were like, because again, you know, obviously we're believers. So at some point she's just like, you know, I feel like we've just been out of ministry for a moment, right? Now, mind you, we're still in church. We're still involved with church and everything, right? Yeah. But it's just like, you know, when you're parents, you kind of have to take a step back and kind of focus, you know, on that. Like, how is she going to be able to, like, to live to the full extent in ministry if she, you know, has to adjust to being a mom? So, you know, there was an opportunity for us to kind of like take a moment, you know, still attend church, still be active in church and so on and so forth, but kind of just, you know, focus in on being parents. It's understandable. But I remember she mentioned that, and it's funny how life worked, because shortly after that, doors kind of opened up for us, and then we were able to actually, you know, to get back to being involved in ministry while she was still young. So it's cool seeing her while, like, we're in practice and worship, or like whenever I'm working on a preaching, you kind of see her kind of just like she knows that we're doing something, so she doesn't necessarily interrupt. She just kind of like, she'll kind of like throw her 2 cents in there every so often when she's like, yo, pay attention to me, right? But for the most part, it's cool because that's how I grew up, right? I grew up that way. And I remember seeing my dad grow up, or excuse me, I remember seeing my dad like reading the Bible or like doing worship or like working on a preaching and so on and so forth. And I remember just kind of knowing like just subconsciously like this is not the time to like interrupt him, but I still want some attention. So she's doing the same thing. So I see that, and I'm just thankful that she's being aware of like the church. She's being aware of like, okay, when she's old enough, you know, we'll introduce to her like, you know, who God is. We do like, you know, she has her little Jesus books and everything, but like obviously she's still only like 18 months.
Yeah.
So
we pray
as she gets
at night
older,
and she says amen, and she knows like when worship is happening, if we're not doing worship, she'll like scream out hallelujah and little things like that she sees us do. So she's mirroring it, but it's nice to know that she like somewhat has a concept of it in her little brain.
Yeah. Okay, so that leads me, I'm gonna ask you a pretty deep question, right? Okay. So how has God allowed you, right, to, excuse me, let me reword the question. How has your walk with God helped you be a mom to Lila?
I think honestly just going over kind of his examples of it, like he shows me patience every day. Even when I'm trying to be hard-headed and I want to do my own thing, he's shown me patience and he's shown me grace. So sometimes like we all have our bad days. So learning to be patient with her and understanding that she's growing and that she's going through her own growth, I have to learn to be patient with her as well. Or like when I'm having a bad day, she wants to like play around and be active. And I'm like, I just want to sit here and do nothing because my brain is overloaded. And it's like, I have to give her that time. I have to make that space just like Jesus gives me space and gives me time as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think for me, right, and it's cool because I'm giving the classes on Sundays before our service.
Yeah.
So we're in the book of Jeremiah, right? And in the book of Jeremiah, obviously Jeremiah, he's a prophet that's like not well liked by who he's speaking to, because he's speaking to Israel, and he's also in certain aspects speaking to Judah, right? And in chapter 3, I think it's in chapter 3, there's a portion, right, where God calls onto Israel and Judah and says, you know, you can still come back to me, right? Like, even though I am angry and you have turned your back on me and you've taken up idols and kind of abandoned me, right? I'm still calling you home, right? And you see how sincere he's still being, although he was done dirty, right?
Yep.
And I can see that as a parent, right? That as we get older, as I get older, this sweet girl that we have, right? As she gets older, you know, she's gonna develop her own identity. So am I gonna be prepared for those times where I get hurt, you know?
Yeah.
Because I got too involved, or am I gonna be, you know, how am I gonna react, right, in those situations? So I feel like, you know, reading this particular passage, right, it helps me kind of keep centered, right? Because the theme of Jeremiah is just how, you know, how a people has turned their back on God. But as a Christian, as a Christian, right, I feel like it helps me kind of just keep focused on making sure that I'm doing my part as a believer, as a leader, right, and as a father, right, and as a husband. And it's complicated, but it's also not that complicated, right? As I said earlier, it's just as long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, what God calls me to do, right? And I abide by his rule and not mine. Because sometimes, you know, when you're giving so much, right? When you're giving all of this, when you're given the ability to be husband, father, provider, and so on and so forth, it's like, it's almost like you have to make sure, right, that you're okay with losing control. And I mean, not actually losing control, but not having the control.
Right.
Because God is the one that's in control. And it's funny because, you know, we were talking to one of our mentors, Daniel, right? And Daniel told me that. He said, by the way, it's two Daniels. I'll say my brother Daniel, and then I'll say my mentor Daniel, right? Mentor Daniel is my ministry partner, and he says that he has to be okay sometimes with not having control of things, because he thinks that's his main issue, and I can identify with that, because I feel like that's the hard part for me sometimes, is to like, I want to make sure that everyone's okay, but I have to make sure that I'm also not constricting and restricting everybody from doing things, right? And I learned that in the beginning of our relationship, right? So that kind of stopped pretty quick. Once we had a conversation, we were younger. It was what, 2018, 2019, around there.
Yeah.
And you know, the conversation was had when we were dating, and then I had to realize that I was so used to just being on my own that it was hard for me to adopt somebody else into this lifestyle, right? And so she helped me learn that. And then when it came to now being a dad, I have to relearn that, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just like, okay, I know she's going to be okay. She's going to be okay. I just have to make sure I'm not so over the top on things. Because again, I'm a man, I'm a guy, and I have a little beautiful girl, right? So I want to make sure she's okay. But I have to also realize that she's also learning.
Yeah.
So that for me has been kind of like the center point, is surprisingly, even though the book of Jeremiah is not like the most famous, right? The most famous book in the Bible. It is, you know, and again, in his ministry, it was like 30 or 40 years. He had like 2 converts.
Yeah.
So it was not a well-received ministry for him, but those 2 lives mattered, right? And I feel like I am part of that. I feel like I am one of those lives, right? And it's helped me keep centered and focused.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I need that, like just quick reminder, not, you know, sometimes I'm a little hard-headed and I feel like I need that like quick kind of wake up. You know?
Yeah. I think for me in this season that we've been going through as a parent and just us going through our transition, it's kind of like knowing that God is in control and that everything's going to work out.
Yeah.
Because like, I am a very big planner. I like having plans from A through Z. And if something goes wrong, I always have another plan that's going to come up and be able to fix the issue. And this time around, it's like, I'm going to try to give her all the tools that she needs. I'm going to try to guide her the best way that I can with God's help. But I know that one day it's going to be her choice, whether she decides to follow God. She's going to have to make her own choices, who she's around, who her friends are. And I'm going to have to be okay with those choices and just pray that God helps her and that she listens to the Lord in her walk, you know? So like not having that plan, like, okay, well, if she does this, what am I going to do? It's like, I can't do anything. I can't make plans for her because it's going to be her life at the end of the day. I can only give her all the tools that she needs, give her all the tools that the Lord has given us, so then she makes her own choices.
But she has a long way to go, though.
She does, but even now as a little girl,
she better. She
like yesterday, for example, she knew that I was picking up the stuff, and she helped me pick it up. And then she was like, and through the stuff that came through, she was like, nah, I'm gonna just swipe it all away.
So continue where you were saying. Sorry, audio cut off for a second. You were saying that she had swiped at the stuff?
Yeah, she swiped everything away, and then she ran away with the fear of the Lord because she knew she did something wrong, but then it was her choice to do it anyway.
I mean, it was her choice, and it's just funny because like I saw like her reaction, right? And she didn't even wait a second. Like, this is the quickest reaction I've ever seen my daughter have. She hit it, and then she went, and then like, and she did that while running, like while trying to crawl away, and it was raps. Like I was telling her like I couldn't help her from message away. Although I wanted to inside, I was like, nope, you poked it. You poked the bear.
Because she knew.
And that attacked.
So that's what I mean. Like, I know that she's going to make choices, even the ones that are not best for her. But I have to trust that God has her and God will guide her, and that no matter what choices she makes, He's going to make sure that they all turn out for good, for her to be okay.
And I think that the journey that we're headed towards too as well, I think that that's also going to help us. We will tell you guys later, but we are in the works of, again, transitions in life. And once they happen, once things are much more clear, we'll express those things. But just know that God has been great, and God has opened doors for us. And we're excited for what's going to go on in the future, which is why we're, kind of like, not necessarily an update video. This is more like hey, we're gonna start posting now.
Yeah.
Now in terms of schedule, again, obviously, we have a daughter, and some parents make it work. We try to make it work, and for the most part, we'll make it work, and we'll come with like some other material or whatever the case may be at that point. But we wanted to kind of pull back and say, hey, hey, this is where we've been at, and you know, it was kind of cool being offline, but we do feel like, you know, there's a purpose with this channel, and we want to be able to fulfill that purpose. We want to be able to express the love of God through the channel. We want to be able to show who God is through these videos, and through the love that God spreads to us. We want to be able to share that same warmth to everybody else, you know. And we're hoping that these videos, you know, just touch the right person. And it's not necessarily about, again, getting views or anything like that. This is more like of a passion project, I would say.
Yeah.
And I think that we've put it in God's hands, and this is one of those things that we just submit to God, right?
Yeah, 100%.
That was it. I thought she was gonna say something.
Well,
else.
you explained it so well that I feel like I don't have to add anything else to it.
But like, you know, I also.
But it is very true, and I feel like we've been trying to like. Well, you asked me to, so now I have to. I feel like we've been trying, but I feel like honestly, this is the time to do it. I feel like our brains were kind of like all over the place a couple of months ago because we were trying to get everything together, and now I feel like this is the right time.
Well, yeah, I think that things, obviously priorities are first, right? And then when it comes to things like this, even though this to us is still a priority, in order to get to this point, things have to be organized, right? And who are we if we are trying to be organized in the middle of chaos? Which I get it, you know, there's a whole thing of like, you know, organized chaos. But in our case, it's like we want to do things to the best ability and be able to glorify God with it. And if we're going to do so, then let's put the energy and time that we need to put into it, and not just halfway do something, right?
And I think we also like, we try to go by what the Lord says and what he says on his word.
We try. I do.
Listen, we try. We're human. We sometimes fail. We're not perfect.
I do.
However, we know that we always put our family first.
I do.
We try our best.
I do my best.
Exactly. You sure do your best. But yeah, I think we just try our best, but we do make sure that our family obviously God is first, and then is our family. Yeah. And then everything else, we just make the priorities go. Yeah.
Once there's like a, you know, obviously the channel will have direction, but again, this is something that we just do where it's not necessarily like one focus, but it is intentionally like the main focus is God in our lives and our journey as young parents, and as we go through our life, what God does in our lives, right? And we'll be able to express those things through these conversations. And also, you know, if there's others that are going to be a part of it, then that may be the case. But again, who knows what's to come in the future? But again, we thank you guys for tuning in. We thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss what was that?
The bell.
Okay. Hit the notification bell to make sure that you never lose notifications of getting notified of the fact that we're uploading videos, because these videos do take time, and they do take time for me to edit and put it up. And, you know, anyways, anything else to say?
Love you guys. Hope you guys come for our next episode. If there's any topics you guys want us to go over or anything you guys are interested about, just put it in the comment sections.
Awesome. Read the book of Jeremiah. I felt terror. You should feel terror too. Love y'all. Bye.